It's Nell. Last year I heard so much about the novel The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This novel came out in February of 2017 and it was everywhere. People were raving about it. So many people had this as one of their best books of 2017. It was an Amazon bestseller, National Book Award long list. It's got 4.5 stars on Goodreads. It's also being made into a movie, which is set to be released this October. So with all of this praise, I have to wonder, is this book worth the hype? First, what is this novel about? This is Thomas's debut novel, and she was inspired by some real-life tragedies such as Oscar Grant and Trayvon Martin. This is the story of Star. She is an African-American teenager. Her life is split between two worlds. She has her predominantly black, poor neighborhood that she lives in, and then she has her predominantly white, wealthier high school that she attends. The novel opens with her going to a party. At the party, she runs into one of her childhood friends, Khalil. There is a fight that breaks out, and the two of them leave together. As they're driving home, Khalil is pulled over for a busted taillight. When he's pulled over, he has an altercation with the police officer, and Khalil is fatally shot. This then goes into Star's story to see how her family, her community, everyone deals with this tragedy. She also then gets the perspective of the white students at her high school. And then we also go into the trial of the police officer as well. This is such a relevant and important novel that it seems unjust to nitpick it for things like word choicing and telling versus showing. One of the aspects of the writing which I would say I had an issue with was the pacing. The pacing didn't seem consistent. The novel seemed to really struggle with it, especially in the last third. One thing that I would have liked to have seen more of was the trial. The trial seemed to be glossed over. However, when you look at the story as a whole, the trial wasn't the important part. The events of that night, who these people were as characters, how it affects the community, those were all the important aspects of this, but as a reader, I really would have liked to have seen more of the trial itself. It's really hard to say that I enjoyed this novel based on the subject matter. It is so heavy and emotional, but I did really enjoy this novel. One thing that helped me to enjoy it was Star's family. Star had a fantastic family. I love seeing her father. Her father is an ex-convict who is trying to provide for his family. I love to see his struggles, how he dealt with his family. I also loved her half-brother Seven and his involvement, the way he was so protective of his sister, the way he interacted with her white boyfriend Chris. And one of the key family members, I think, to this story is her uncle. Her uncle is also a police officer, and I think that just adds a fantastic perspective. So we don't just get the white police officer versus the black hoodlum. This helped to really balance the story, and I loved so many of the things that he said to Star. Police officers do put their lives on the line every day. It is scary. They carry a great responsibility and have to make split-second decisions. With her uncle also being a police officer, it just shows the dimensions. While situations like this do happen, there are countless other situations that don't turn out the way that this novel did. There are police officers of color out there. There are police officers who don't make assumptions. This story, though, is bringing to light the instances that do and the prevalence of those situations. I also loved Khalil as a character. We only see him alive for the first few chapters, but he's really brought to life with Star's recollections of their childhood. I love seeing the dimensions of his character. I loved learning more about him and his family. Throughout this novel, we are all rooting with Star. We want justice for Khalil, but Thomas takes it one step further and makes him a, if you want to say, more morally gray character. Khalil had dealt drugs. He did have some involvement with some gangs, but is that justification for his murder? No. I thought these aspects were so important. They really made him feel genuine as a character, and they really made me think, especially as a white reader, how we label people. It made me think of the media's portrayal and how we can see things like suspected drug user, suspected gang member, suspected whatever. And we don't think of these people as individuals. We think of them as those labels instead of children, as sons, daughters, friends. Haley was also an important character. She was Star's friend from high school. Haley represented those that don't understand, don't know, or don't want to acknowledge that what they're saying is racist. Everything she said, she would say to Star or Maya, "I'm only joking." It doesn't matter your intentions. If the words you're saying belittle or hurt another person, they're not okay to say. This next part we'll talk about the ending, so there will be some spoilers, FYI. As far as the ending of this novel, it ended the only way that it could. Throughout the whole story, we are rooting for justice for Khalil. We want so much for this officer to be convicted of his murder, but we know that that's not what's going to happen. This story would not have the same significance and meaning if he had been convicted. Even though this is a work of fiction, Thomas is basing this on a lot of real life events, and there wouldn't be as much of a point to this novel if the police officer had been convicted. This is showing so much of the injustice that we have in society and the assumptions that were made by the police officer with Khalil and the assumptions of society through the media. Again, as I said, this is an important and heavy work. It makes you think about things such as don't make assumptions, don't assume based on race or neighborhood what somebody is up to, what their intentions are. Also, it tells us to speak up, not just to speak up against the police officer the way that Star did, but even to people like Haley. It's letting people know that even if someone says that something is a joke or that they didn't intend it to be that way, it's okay to speak up and to let them know that what they're saying is hurtful. So, is this book worth the hype? Yes. This book was amazing. It was so good. And as I said, it's so important. I almost feel like this novel should be taught in high schools, especially with it being a young adult novel. I think that it's very accessible to young kids. And again, very impactful. I'm really excited for the movie this fall, and I'm just hoping that it will be as profound and accessible as this novel was. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, please hit subscribe, and I will have a new video for you soon. Bye!